Welcome back to the Keegan and Company podcast. For those who are new to the show, my name is Keegan Hipgrave. And guys, if you haven't already, got to get you to jump over, give us a little like and subscribe, or whatever podcast you listen to this platform on. Whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. First go. In this episode, I'm joined by one of the greats, All-Australian and professional AFLW player for the Collingwood Magpies, Ruby Schleicher. How are you, Rubes?
Good pronunciation. He's been practicing.
We got there. I was just like, I would be so embarrassed if I came in here and got your last name wrong.
I've honestly had some stinkers of attempts. Like, people just add random L's in there. Like, Schlickalacka was one.
What were the worst?
Like, Schlickalacka. I reckon I got that in, like, primary school. And I'm like, where does the second L come from?
Where does that even come from?
I don't know. I mean, it's spelled pretty terribly, but you can figure it out.
We got there. I always laugh around those like pista cameras because we obviously do this, and like everyone that's come on this podcast pretty much have just been friends.
Yeah.
Like I'm like very fortunate and I love it. Like I get to sit down with friends. But they take the piss out of me all the time.
Mate, like, looking down the barrel is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Like, that is the hardest part, having a script that you have to try and go off and try and nail it. They're the ones that you always fuck up.
Yeah, I know. And especially, like, I've said this before on another podcast. I've had this guy, Connie Harrell, who I used to play with on the Gold Coast Titans. And he's just like this big Polynesian dude, but funny as, like, it was actually right because it's obviously like a mental health and sport podcast. And I've never had a serious conversation with him outside of the podcast setting, and he would always just take the piss out of you. And then, like, I won't say what he said, but he's just like, just fully interrupted me, like mid-potty, and we're just laughing.
Did you leave it in? That one got cut.
No, I think we put it up as like a funny, like little blooper clip. I don't think we kept it in. I was like, man, just let me get through it. How are you going? Because you're obviously leaning into the media space. Like, just before we kick things off, just quietly, like, I'm seeing you everywhere. Like, honestly, like, well done, because it's so cool to sit back and just watching you kill it. Like, how is everything at the moment?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. It's taken off the last, it's something that I've been working towards the last 2 years in an internship that I've had through Fox Sports. So the last 2 years, it's a lot of, it might seem like it's like just now everything's popping up, but the last 2 years I've had an internship full-time around my AFLW commitments that has prepared me. Like, I had no media training. I didn't study journalism or anything like that, but I was very fortunate. AFLW set up a cadet or an internship for one player a year, and I got that a couple years back. By the time my year was up, they were like, right, we see potential in this, let's extend it to a 2-year one. And they literally taught me everything from how to write news stories, going out to press conferences. So basically in Melbourne, I'd go, not just AFL, I'd be out at Storm all the time at their press conferences. I might have to listen to a press conference and learn how to do a live cross for Fox Sports News 10 minutes later and be able to talk about what the hell has just gone on, which is so daunting, especially with no experience. So that's been sort of my background the last 2 years. And now I've just shifted into a new contract with, I'm now just Fox Footy, and it's more of your game day and all that, and that's my next few years set up for me. But it's been so much fun, and I guess all the radio stuff around that just kind of complements it. The more flying hours you get, the more people
you got to get the reps in. You got to get the reps in. But how do you start? Like, how do they choose someone for the cadetship? Is that just someone that they see potential in, or something? Was that something that you wanted to lean into after footy? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, well, when I moved over here, and I just, I'm from Perth, so in Perth.
Beautiful spot.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it.
Tough.
I love it so much. I'll move back there one day, but I can't rush back. I've got too many good opportunities here at the moment. But living in Perth, I sort of was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know what I'm bloody doing. AFLW came up really quickly. Got drafted to Collingwood, so moved over when I was 18. And as soon as I moved over and was sort of thrusted into one of the biggest clubs in Australia, I was put in front of a camera, and I was always been a loudmouth. I've always loved to talk and just make a dick of myself. I don't care if there's a camera on or not. Yeah. And through those sort of experiences, I was like, shit, maybe this sort of stuff is for me. And I think that's where my love for just being in front of the camera and literally just being a show-off. Like, that is what half of it is loving the sound of your own voice and being a show-off,
It seems like it's perfectly suited for you, Even before this podcast, I was thinking, oh, God, they put two people that just love hearing the sound of their own voice on a
honestly,
podcast.
I don't know how either of us are getting a word in. We're just jump in with our own stories.
We'll make it work. But it is, like, it is exciting to see you lean into this space. And it's probably like the more you do it, the more you get better at it. Like for me, when I was playing, I didn't lean into the media space at all because I didn't think I was good at it. Like every time I would do a piece to camera or anytime we would have an interview with journos, I'd always like mumble over my words or I'd stuff things up and I was like, nah, get somebody else to do it. And then it's funny, like step out of footy and obviously you get better throughout your career, but you step out of it and like now media is a huge part of the role. When you first got into it, were you nervous? Was it how was the progress? Like how did you battle the nerves?
Oh my! I was just so bad for starters. Like if you saw my first live cross for Fox Sports News, you would have been like, who is this chick?
Can we find a clip of that?
Yeah. Oh God, I don't know. I think hopefully Fox Sports News like deletes it. You know, there's a lot of news in the world that passes it. Yeah. But there was one. Yeah, there's just like so many scenarios where I just, same as you said, mumbled on my words, just like so trash, can't get, it's like I forgot like any sort of in-depth vocabulary and I just use the most basic words and you've got the anchor asking you questions and you're supposed to be able to have all the answers and I'm just like, and then by the end, like, you know, a couple of weeks ago I did my first boundary riding gig for Fox Footy for a game and it was my first time doing it and it's so funny because I'll think back to how I felt first doing a live cross and how much I was shitting myself and was so nervous compared to my first boundary gig, which I thought I'd be a lot more nervous for, but all the work I've done for the last 2 years really prepared me for it. And I actually was like, fuck, I feel ready for this. You know, like I'm talking footy. I know how to talk footy.
You can talk footy 100%.
Exactly.
Was there a clip on Instagram where it was just like, you're like, oh, I heard such and such his first time the other day, and if I'm not as bad as him, I'll be fine. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
I thought I'm like, man, this girl is just in a natural habitat.
You gotta come in and clip someone early. I think it was Stevie J on Triple M, and that was my first boundary gig for Triple M as well. And I just had to give someone a clip, and he was the easy option. He was up in the box, and you know, it's just easy.
I love that. I think we're definitely going to talk about footy, and we are going to talk about the roller coaster of professional sport, and I'm super excited to dive into that. But before we do, I think it's probably fitting just to give a little bit of background, like what was it like growing up in the Schleicher household? Like, you know, was it you doing a bunch of different sports, like siblings, a competitive environment? Like, what did it look like?
Think of me times 6. So I'm one of 4, but my parents are nutcases too. So I'm the third of 4. Brother's the oldest. He's 30, Jake. Footballer growing up, partly where I got my love for football from, him and my old man. Would have just, you know, Dad coached Jake all the way through juniors, and I'm 5 years younger than Jake, and just whenever I could, I would jump in and do footy training whenever they'd let me. As they got a bit older, they wouldn't let me do the contact stuff because I was just a tiny little thing, but I would be in as many training sessions as I could of them, and that's definitely where my love for footy came from. And then 2 sisters, older sister, younger sister, and we all talk as much as each other. Yeah. We're all crazy. Mum loves to talk. Like
getting a word in at the dinner table.
I had few of my best friends over for New Year's. New Year's just gone, and you just sit at our dinner table and they're just like jaws on the floor because it's like every dinner's like a performance. Like it's just a madhouse. And our house growing up was the house everyone goes to. So it was just, you know, everyone's friends. Like we're so lucky in that way because all of our friend groups have kind of morphed into one because everyone spent so much time together at our house. A crazy household has completely shaped who I am now and probably the confidence I have as well because we're just like, you got to speak up if you want to be heard in that house. So it's, you know, you're taught early to, you know, stand up for yourself, make your mark, whatever it is.
But from the outside looking in, obviously I've known you for, a year or two, a couple of years now, and you seem like you can talk to anyone. Like it doesn't, I don't know, and maybe that's just from the outside looking in, maybe it's a learned thing. Like, have you always had that? Because it looks like you just, you know, you could talk to, you know, grandma and granddad that's been watching the footy, or you can talk to the CEO or people on the boundary. Like you talk to anyone.
100%. That's from my mum for sure. Like when you were younger, if mum asked you, hey, do you want to come to the shops, like do a grocery shop with me? You'd often say no because you know you'd be there for 2 hours because you'd get talking to some random in the aisle. You know what I mean? So like in that's from my mum for sure. But I think that comes as well from having so many different siblings at different ages and talking to older kids, you know, having parents with such a close friendship group, being around adults from a really young age and, being involved in those adult conversations. And then also I reckon moving away from home at a young age, at being 18, never lived out of home, pretty daunting, we were making fuck all as an AFLW player. You had to go, I had to find a job in a cafe. You have to talk to people through hospitality, like all these sort of experiences that you just go, well, yep, you have to talk to people, don't you?
Let's zoom in on that. What did it look like? So you're 18, you finished high school. Was it a AFLW contract that came up? Like, why the move over?
I finished high school, 18, was originally going to go over play basketball, college basketball, to the States, and had a few colleges I was talking to in my last year of school, and fractured my back twice in that last year. So the first time it was sort of like, right, watch and see the colleges, right? We just want to watch it. Stress. Yeah. So the first one was 2 weeks before my final under 18s national carnival representing WA, and it was like a scratchy before we went, got fouled awkwardly, landed on my feet awkwardly and fractured my back, but we didn't get it scanned and it wasn't like a debilitating fracture, but I was in a lot of pain and just sort of dragging myself up to get through games. Probably only the most I played that carnival was half a game, and then the rest I was just like flat on my back. It was just a really bad, I couldn't really walk or anything. Got a, after games, got a scan when I got back, we saw a little fracture. So pulled back, and then 6 months later was playing basketball again, and under stress, the other side fractured. So, and that was when we told colleges of the second one, and they were asking how you going. That's when it's like, right, well, we're not going to give a 4-year scholarship to a girl that can't stay out on the court. And to be fair, I didn't know how I was going to come back from it. Like I really struggled. I was playing SBL at the time back home, which is it's NBL 1 now. Yeah. And I was training and playing with that and could barely stay on the court and training. Found it really difficult on the hard floorboards in changing direction, and I'd have to be on the sidelines because I'm too sore. Yeah. And that's when footy, I'd picked up footy again when I was 16 just for fun.
I was going to ask, was it always basketball, footy? Like were you going back and forth between the two? Was it basketball was probably that's how I can see my college, that's how I can see the future?
Basketball was always the goal.
That was it?
Yeah, basketball was always the goal because footy wasn't an option. Played footy from when I was 4 years old till I was 11, and then girls had to stop when they were 12 anyway. I was the only girl with all the boys. We didn't have a pathway after 12, so and footy and basketball started falling on the same day, so it was righto, give footy up at 11, all basketball, and I was like, basketball's going to be it. I don't apply myself at school. There's not going to be anything else. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was terrible. I was like, it's going to be a sport and it's going to be basketball.
Your poor teachers, I can just imagine.
Oh, mate, you reckon I can chat now? Oh. I had in primary school, I had my own little square on a carpet that it was that was Ruby Square that you're not allowed to talk to anyone. It's at the front, right in front of the teacher. If she caught me turning around, bad news. Yeah, so I was terrible. But then footy, I found out they had a youth girls tournament or just women's footy in general, and I went down to East Fremantle Sharks back home and just played youth girls whenever I could. So it wasn't even if basketball and footy fell on the same day, basketball took priority. Yeah. But for a bit of fun, I was like, oh, screw it. I love footy. I may as well pick it up. But then I always knew basketball was going to be it. And then when it wasn't, I was still playing footy at the time, and my back actually felt better going back to footy.
I was going to say, were you nervous playing another sport because it's something that's probably a bit different, a bit foreign, but obviously you're not as dialed in as you were to basketball.
Yeah.
Were you nervous playing another sport purely injury-wise?
I think it's so weird. I didn't feel as much pain playing footy. So whether it's because when it's on grass, I know you're getting hit, but your body knows, your body knows how to protect itself. You see your body incoming, your body knows how to tense up and take a hit. People always go, oh, surely it hurts. And I'm like, yeah, it's sometimes if they get you corky, but otherwise you're pretty good. But so yeah, that was the weird thing that I found was basketball, I was really struggling to come back. And footy, I was like, fuck, this feels all right. I can actually do this. And I think that's when that move, and then college obviously wasn't an option anymore. So that threw my world into a whirlwind. And I actually remember I was in my room crying, being like, everything I've worked towards is gone. I've got no idea what I'm going to do. And I remember mum coming into my room. So mums just know, man. Like, and she came into my room, and this is before AFLW had been announced. This is before that, like, we were told originally first AFLW draft was going to be in 2023. And so, like, everyone preparing to have a team for then. And so this is before we knew it was going to be that year. And my mum comes in, she goes, you know what, Rubes, I've just got this feeling that you're going to move away for one of your sports. You're going to move away from Perth. I don't know what sport, but one of them. And she goes, and you're going to get into media. And I went, shut up, Mum. I'm like pulling my eyes out. I'm like, I'm having a crisis. Like, you don't know, Mum.
You know everything as we do.
Literally. But like mums just know. Yeah. And she likes to remind me of that moment often because she remembers it. I vividly remember it. I was just like, that typical, you're out of school, your life's always been structured. What am I going to do now? And like mum just knew.
And look at it just all fall into place. Like, I mean, you come over here, and I'm keen to talk about how the Collingwood, the Magpies came around, but like it's so funny how like one door closes and another one opens, and most likely it ends up being even better than what you thought before. Like
100%.
I think about these sliding door moments all the time. Like similar. Like I got medically retired from rugby league. I was 24 years old. Like wanted to play Origin, which is tonight. It's tonight for those who are listening. It's tonight. This will be played in a little couple of weeks' time. But I was like wanted to play Origin, wanted to play for Australia. I got medically retired, and I was like, oh, okay, well I can't kick stones. Like what's next? Like what am I going to do? And then always love mental health, always wanted to have the tools to be able to help friends and family and then mates who are also transitioning out of the game.
Were you thinking that when you were playing, or were you just like footy? Like was there any part of you that thought,
Mum and dad, mum's super academic. So she pushed me towards I did a Bachelor of Business, halfway through an MBA. So always like that academic side. But even during I tried everything when I was playing. Like I was like, maybe I want to own like a fine dining restaurant one day. So I went into Labard in Burleigh, which you should go this weekend if you're going to the I'll link you up if you want to go. They're best crew ever. And it's kind of like we'd just go on my prep days, on my days off, and just prep. Yeah. And it was so much fun. And then I just trialed different things just to figure out what I wanted to do. And then when I got finished up, I was like, okay, well, I know everything that I don't want to do. So what's next? And I knew helping people was definitely one. And then now, studying psychology, helping past players transition out of the NRL, and this podcast, to be honest, I love this thing so much. I get more.
It's your baby.
It's my little baby. I get more joy and fulfillment out of this than any game of footy that I ever played. And I was just you talk about sliding doors. I'm like, not that I'm glad that I had all these concussions, but it worked out.
100%.
And now look at you. Yeah. It's it just flowed on.
I'm a genuine believer that the energy you put out into the world is what you receive back. So I really believe the way that you treat people, the way, talking to a random person, you don't know what it means to their day. You know, you might give someone 5 extra seconds and they might go, oh, and leave them with a really good feeling about themselves. And I just think that energy that you give to others and the universe itself, you'll get that back at some stage.
I get the way I know exactly what you're saying, the energy piece. Do you find that you get energy from putting that out there? Say if you meet someone out there and you're because you're very you've got to look great energy. You walk in here, Gags, what's happening? You've got a great energy, and then I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, this is mad.
Yeah.
And then the other person receives it. Do you think that you're putting the energy out there?
It's honestly, it's not something that I have to actively try to do.
Yes.
It's something that I've actually had to learn to actively switch off to restore my own energy at times.
Yeah,
so
what do you mean?
So I think something I've learned, I'm always up here. I'm when I'm around company, I did a 6-week Europe trip with the girls. Sarah Rowe was one of them, who you've had on the pod previously, my former housemate.
Oh my God.
We've separated this year. Don't talk to about it.
Split up the gang.
No, but we're 6 girls, all my best friends, and they've known me for years, and 6 weeks all together nonstop, and they were like, do you ever switch off? I can't help but be, when I'm around people, up here. And it's that's the thing. It's almost where that show off comes in. I'm not trying to show off. I just love being around people and having and conversing and having a laugh. And I really enjoy that. But one thing that I did have to learn is through through being in a football environment and having 30 girls is sometimes, you give, and if things aren't going your way, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon, if it's injuries or whatever, if you give, and there's other things that aren't working, you can actually burn yourself out. And I think that's something that I've had to learn just in the way of how do I recharge myself? How do I get that energy back, which I've figured out as time goes on.
Yeah, what do you do?
Go for a surf, get down the coast, do something that I could be by myself. I could go for a surf with someone else, but things that fills me up. I'm still using energy, surfing's still working out, but it's something that I do for me that then allows me to give my absolute best version of myself to everyone I meet.
But it's a different type of energy, because you're around people all day, you're working, you're in the media space, you've got to be on when you're in the media, and then also when you're at training, you want to be on for the girls, you 100%. Want to present, and you want to be your best self. Now you're a leader in the Collingwood in the team, your girls looking up to you now, and so you want to give your best self, and so it's so important, and it's good that you've recognized it. It's good that you've got that self-awareness, because so many crew would just burn the candle and then be I'm cooked.
Yeah. That was me early days for sure. I was just a crazy 18, 19, 20-year-old that I just love energy and being up here for the girls, and I love making the girls laugh and coming into the change rooms and just making a dick of myself. Yeah. But it's that self-awareness of, all right, but where am I at? You know, how can I fix it? How can I maintain this? Am I at a level that I can maintain? But yeah, I do think it's something that, I've had to learn, but I love just I love leaving people feeling better than, I found them, I love leaving people. I love the thought of just leaving a conversation and being I hope they got a really good energy and feel better for that conversation.
I still think you get so much energy from it. Even these conversations, I know this conversation, I'm going to be walking out feeling oh, far out. I've got so much.
Beaming. I love this. Talking to someone that makes you feel good about yourself.
100%. I think we need more people like that in the world. And I don't know. I'm keen to hear your thoughts, because you're very go, go, go. Similar. I have friends and family that they say, you're doing too much. You got to pull back. If you keep going, you're going to burn yourself out. And I'm I don't know if I will. If I'm not sleeping and I'm not prioritizing training and stuff like that. Yeah, of course, I'm going to. But I feel I'm really good, and can hear your thoughts on yourself. But when I get to that certain point, or when I get to that line, taking a day or taking a morning to go for a wave, still, that stuff gets me. Do you have these conversations with friends and family?
100%. I'm pretty good at sharing, to be fair, about mentally where I'm at with people around me, whether it's workplace, football, best friends, family. I'm a very open person with majority of the people in my life, which I know people I've got siblings who struggle to do that. So it's just those different personality types. I've always felt really open in that. So even when I reflect on the last 2 years, the busiest 2 years of my life, the best 2 years of my life, but the busiest, I've been working my ass off because I knew, all right, media is something I want to do. I've got this opportunity to be in this internship. I've got 2 years to prove myself. So I'm going to go hammer and tong into this off field and give it absolutely everything to make sure that I create opportunities for myself, whilst also trying to be the best athlete I can be and focus on my football with hours coming up and up with AFLW, whilst also maintaining my own stuff outside and making sure I'm fulfilled and putting effort into my relationship and my friendships and all that kind of thing.
I was going to say, put in a social calendar as well.
Well, that's it, yeah. And I think there were moments that 100% there were moments where I had to go to Fox and go to my boss and go, hey, look, I'm pretty exhausted right now. I'm just wondering, can I drop down to 4 days instead of 5? I feel cooked. I can start to feel it in my body. I think I just need to start to look after myself. I'm so fortunate that I have the most understanding workplace, and that they understand as well that I'm an athlete first, but also a person before that as well. So it's they know what the best version of me looks like. I've been there 5 days a week for 2 years. They know what energetic me looks like compared to burnt out me. And I was so close to getting burnt out, and they saved me from that by going, you take what you need to do, come in 3 days a week, let's drop it way back. And when you're ready to kick up again, let's go. That's just I'm very fortunate that I know that not everyone has that support or feels comfortable to have those conversations. I'm in a really unique position with my workplace and my sport and the people around me. But yeah, it's so important, and I feel for those that don't feel they can do that, because had I have not felt I could go and do that, I would have burnt out so bad. It would have come out in my football. I wouldn't have been the best version of myself at work. I'd struggle. I wouldn't be the best version of myself with my boyfriend or my friends as well. You know, I'd be a shell of myself. So I'm so lucky with that. But it's funny, you go, you know, when you say, right, or if a friend or a family goes, you know, get out, like mum's the one who knows in me, if through a FaceTime, she'll be like, you need to get down the coast, love. Like it'll be as easy as that. She'll just go, she'll be like, love, get down the coast, go for a surf. And she just knows that she can feel when I'm not quite there, maybe when I am burning the candle at both ends, and when it's time to like, right, just going to be a couple of hours, but like you just need that.
What is it about like just going down to the coast, surfing, like being, I don't know what it is, but I don't even have to be in the water. As long as I'm like close to the water, I feel so much more just like present, like I feel good. Even like a heap of the crew, like we were talking a lot of the Storm boys, Wish and Harry, like they're the exact same. Like
100%.
Grew up on the beach, and they're like, if we can get down to Mornington or Torquay, they're like, just feel so
wherever,
good.
even if there's no waves, just get out, like get out of Melbourne.
Yeah.
And like I love Melbourne, but like it's a shitload. Like there's a lot happening all the time, especially coming from Perth where there's fuck all happening a lot of the time. You know, I love that there's fuck all, but it's so, even if there's no surf, just getting down, dipping your head under it, and it's like, like your worries away. It makes you feel so much better.
You wash the day off. You wash any
100%.
dramas. Rubes, this is obviously a mental health and sport potty. We said that before. And hey, grateful. Like I'm so grateful that you're willing to come on and have these types of conversations. I think when we started this, I think I was telling you before, it's just like, if we can be seen having conversations with, you know, not only the best athletes, but also the people first. And I love that you said that before, where we're not, the crew, they're not just athletes, they're people first. But if they can be seen talking about their own struggles, you know, their own vulnerabilities, then shit, it makes it okay for the rest of us to have these conversations. And every theme is different. Like we talked to Rowie about moving over overseas to a foreign country, and you know, we talked before about Braden Maynard talking about his OCD and Oleg. Like it's just, each conversation is different, and I'm grateful that you're even just willing to come on and have 100%. These conversations. But
it's a credit to you how comfortable you make everyone to.
I don't know about that.
No, 100%.
I've just got lucky. I've been lucky you got great mates. But over the years, and we've obviously had a few conversations off air. Is there something that you're willing to talk about? Is there something that you're comfortable that, you know, you've struggled with over the last couple of years, or even coming into the AFLW?
Yeah. Well, like I would say, first really big challenge was homesickness early doors. Like that was really hard, like similar to Rowie, moving away from home, really close family. We're all best mates. So being 18 and moving across and just not knowing what the hell I'm doing. Like there were so many moments, particularly the first 4 years, just like not like I wasn't a good footballer the first 4 years. I was like, I'm lucky Collingwood held on to me. And I think an element of why they did was because I was the character I was in the change rooms and in the four walls. I was that class clown that they probably needed, that person that lightens things up when shit's hitting the fan, which first 4 years were pretty average. So she was hitting the fan a lot.
Lucky they held on to you.
Exactly. Yeah. But like that was probably like the first really big challenge. But then I think with that and you're 18, you move across, you're really young, you don't really know how to look after yourself, what you should be eating, all this kind of thing. One thing that I've really had to learn and work on throughout my journey is like relationship with food and body image as a female athlete as well. A lot, like I sort of had this idea, I feel, when I was, you know, I'm a very different build to my sisters and, you know, the women in my life who are like little petite, you know, hourglass figures. Like I'm a strong girl, you know what I mean? And you see these people and you go, oh, fuck, what? I'm meant to look like that. Or you see female athletes who get put on posters and get put on this sort of stuff and you go, oh, well, that's what a female at her absolute best looks like.
And that's what you were thinking when you left, coming into Melbourne?
That's what I thought probably early years in my career. Like I was I was like, all right, I need to look like this. You know, this is what I need to look like. And then from there, I'm going to achieve the best. How do I achieve that? Okay, well, I'm going to track my food. So this was a rabbit hole that I went down, was like tracking calories. And then from there, you're looking at numbers the whole day and looking at and under fueling. Like as an athlete, I'm eating way under what I should be for a female athlete that's expending what I am at trainings and at games and all that kind of thing. And when you're looking at numbers the whole day and looking at calories and what I should be eating, I'm going, well, you start to create an unhealthy relationship, right? So I'm under eating as it is. And then I might eat a cracker and a cheese, you know, one cracker and cheese outside and feel like the worst person in the world because I've gone out of my calories.
You had the guilt.
Right? And so it's just that unhealthy relationship of going, that's fucked my whole week now. I've fucked, like, I'm the worst person ever for doing that. And that's such an unhealthy, like, I'm training my ass off. I can have a fucking cracker and cheese if I want a cracker and cheese.
Go do the rest.
Yeah,
you know?
literally. So, and I think that was kind of the pattern that I sunk into, was I saw these really good, physically, I was, you know, the leanest I'd ever gotten to because I was tracking my calories to a T, and I got lean. I got my first All-Australian. I'm like, fuck, this works for me, right? But then in myself, I'm going, but I don't have freedom with food. Like, I don't feel, I'm hungry going into training sessions, and I think that's normal, you know? Like, and from this, I'm very fortunate that I've got people in my life who have struggled with eating disorders that I've been able to see how it affects people.
You've seen it personally?
I have people in my life that, you know, have had told me their stories, and I've seen it. And so I go, I can see what, you know, anorexia and bulimia and stuff, what it does mentally to people, like, and physically what it can do to people. And I was luckily aware of those things as I was going through this. So I had moments where, you know, I ate something that was outside my calories, felt really guilty, purged. But after I purged, making yourself vomit, thankfully it never made me feel better, which is it's something that people who struggle with bulimia, that it makes them feel better. And then that's when that cycle continues. But for me, I think I had this example of people around me that I knew how bad it can get, that as soon as I did it, I went, oh, fuck, no, I can't do that. So that's not me.
So you're able to catch yourself because you have seen it. And then I think around to imagine all the crew who haven't seen it and they just think this is a normal thing to do.
100%.
And it seems the way from what you're saying is that you were doing this because you thought it was going to make you a better athlete.
100%. I thought the leaner I am, faster I am, no one can catch me. It comes to good performance, like all these things. It was all adding up to me, but it's actually doing the complete opposite, you know.
Tell me about that. When did you realize that actually this is not helping me be a better athlete? This is actually doing the opposite.
Well, I think what I went back to, like going into sessions being like so hungry, like being like I'm not fueled, you know. And you'd listen to the dietitian and get up and talk about all these things and, you know, what a roundabout we should be eating. I'm sitting there going, I'm nowhere near that, but like I've found something that works for me, you know. And I think, like I said, like I've had these examples in my life of like a healthy relationship with food and a not healthy relationship with food. I was aware that my relationship was becoming not healthy, and I'm extremely fortunate that I was able to catch myself in that, and also talk about it. Like talk about it to the people closest to me.
Who'd you talk to?
Like Rowie. I was living with Rowie at the time, you know, being, you know, the person I was living with. If they were aware of the struggle, like of how I'm feeling around it, she can check on me. You know, she's able to, but you know, like my mum, my sisters are able to have that conversation so that the people closest to me, and I think people who are really deep in that, they struggle to do that because they don't want to stop. Yeah. For me, I caught myself in the really early stages of it and going, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, like, I don't want to, I want to be lean and feel really good and play well, but there's got to be ways around what I'm doing now. Like, this isn't the answer. And having that conversation with the people around me, just letting them in. Like I said, I've always been pretty good at being open, letting them into where I was at. It held me accountable, right? So that when they check next time, hopefully I'm going, no, I'm actually fucking good. And I don't have to go, oh, I'm in the same place. Like, held me accountable. And I think I also sort of having that conversation, I went, oh, there's so many people and so many athletes that struggle with this and never talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to be like this skinny little thing to struggle with your relationship with food. That's like people see that and they go, see these tiny little humans go, oh, they must. It's like people, the biggest bloke on the field might, or like one of the strongest girls out on the field might, but you don't see it. But it doesn't have to be seen. It can all be mental inside.
And that's why I'm so grateful that we're doing this on a public long form, platform, because it's not just, yes, like every time we have these conversations, we want to push and like, what are some key takeaways? Like what are some general, like some practical tips that we can take away for the younger generation? But it's not just the younger generation. It's people in the AFL, AFLW 100%. And in the men's space as well. I remember we would go into, and probably similar to yourself, like you'd go and you do your skin folds. And if your skin folds were over, you get the piss taken out of you.
Thank God we don't do skinnies anymore.
You don't do skinnies anymore?
Oh, no. I think first 2 years we did them. And then they were like, women's bodies, like, how can you tell they're all so different? Like, someone's got big hips, someone's, like it's just, how do you tell what is right and what's wrong?
In terms of like practical tips, you talked about talking about it and how it gave you accountability, it gave you, almost a sense of relief. Like, is there any other tips or strategies or advice that you can pass on to anyone?
It's a really hard one because I don't want to talk to everyone's experiences. I'm very fortunate that I caught myself early, and I understand it's so much harder than just talking about it because like there are people that are really deep in it and it's a mind game and like people that look at it and go, oh, well, just stop, just stop, and you're like, no, it's like a mental, it's a full mental disorder. It's so much more than what you just think, than what people think.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm like so lucky I caught it early, and that really was my main thing, was being open. And I also found being open allowed me to like try and help others and have others feel comfortable. Like I spoke to the girls about it because I actually did. I spoke to someone. I did an article about it, and it was the first time I'd spoken about it. And the article wrote it completely wrong and completely changed my story. And I was quite embarrassed by it. I was like, you fucked that up. That's annoyed me. You've fucked that up. You've taken my words and spun it.
Clickbait, a little clickbait.
Yeah, well, the title for it, for starters, was Too Fat to Play Footy.
I don't mean to laugh.
I went, well, I never said I was too fat to play footy. So are you? I mean, I saw the photos when I was 18. I was, you moved out of home, you eat a couple blocks of chocky. Now they're saying you're too fat.
I hate that because you've got someone who's wanting to do the right thing. You want someone who's like exactly what you're talking about. You want to push these good messages out, and then fucking do 100%.
That. 100%.
It's got to be so frustrating.
100%. I remember just being like, fuck. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, what if there's a girl who is a bigger girl in the AFLW, she's a big, strong girl, and she sees that, she thinks I've said that, and then she goes, oh, well, I'm bigger than her, and she thinks, I'm like, that is such bullshit. I never said that. So that annoyed me, but it actually it made me have the conversation with my teammates. So I actually got up in front of my teammates, brought up the clip of the article, the name of it, and just said, I want to explain. I sort of did it as like a, who am I, get to know me, this is me growing up. It was something we did through Collingwood, get to know people. And I just said, this is something I want to touch on. I'm quite embarrassed by it, but I want you guys to be aware of where it actually comes from in case you've seen it pop up and you've gone, what the fuck? And just through having that conversation like I am now and being really open, I then had a young girl in my team first year come up to me and be like, we were actually driving down the coast together and I was taking her for a surf because she's Queenslander as well, and just going, thank you so much for doing that. I've actually been struggling, blah, 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 and open up. And I went, that's exactly why I want to do it, because if that's going to help someone, but that's it. And that for me, I go, again, it's an accountability piece for me. It goes, well, that's such an important conversation to have. And if it helps one other person admit it to themselves that they're struggling or realise that other people are doing it too, then fuck, why wouldn't I talk about it?
Oh, I love that, Rubes. I think that's so important. It's like the compounding effects.
Yeah.
It is honestly, it's like, yes, it's the conversation that you had then, it's the conversation we're having now, but it's the flow-on effects. It's the mum and dad sitting watching this with their kids. You know 100%. What I mean? And it's the conversations that they're going to have. Oh, did you hear that? That article, or did you hear what Rowie, whoever was talking? It's just like, it compounds and it's
100%.
making genuine impact. And the thing that I love is the crew that you lean on. Like you talk about it so well around how you're so willing to be, open and honest about these things. I spoke to Rowie this morning and she's just, she's funny. She's just like, yeah, like you guys obviously like wear your heart on your sleeve. Like you know what's going on. Each of you guys know what's going on with each other. But the great thing that she said is that you guys are so great at knowing when something's up and being able to pull each other out of it.
Yeah.
Whether that being through humor, whether that being through whatever. And I look at that and I was like, it's got to be so important to have good friendships, yeah?
100%. It's so funny. Me and Rowie actually always say this. Like, we've lived together 5 years, right? Like, you could not be fucking closer. We've seen it all with each other. Yeah. We've been through relationships, breakups, and we've always been there. It's so funny, we laugh because there's always, we've never both been down together. It's literally ebbed and flowed. So, either she's gone through a really tough time and then I'm the one who drags her out of it. And then I'm down and then she's our lives have just kind of worked like that and our patterns, which is why we've worked so well and we're able to be as close as we are because you have to be vulnerable. You need someone, especially when we're both away from home. We've had to be sort of that family element for each other. Yeah.
And there's a thing around vulnerability, it does bring you closer together. That whole stigma around I'm going to suppress, I'm not going to talk about certain things because it's a tough thing to do. Nah, stuff that. That's not the play. It's not it. I remember when I first came into grade, obviously super, and I can only speak on behalf of the male space, obviously super alpha, competitive, high testosterone group of lads.
Yeah.
And I walked in, I was like, mate, no one's talking about anything, no struggles. And I was and I remember I'd lost one of my really good mates to suicide and I was just like, nah, I want to be the guy that my mates can talk to. And and as soon as I had that internal conversation with myself. It was just I could go in there and I feel like I could talk to anyone. And also and it's probably similar to yourself and Rowie, when you're more likely to be vulnerable with someone, they're more likely to be vulnerable with you. It's like the young girl that you talked to in the car. It's you had that vulnerability piece and then she was able to come to you.
100%. It makes that conversation of you could be literally walking, there's a difference between walking down the hall and just going, hey mate, how you going, how's your day? Or asking about something that's going, hey Keegs, how are you going, how are you going in the grief stage? I know you lost your mate. It's, that is the difference of depthness is depthness a word? I don't know, in-depth conversations of, just saying g'day and actually checking in on someone and it makes being open makes that question, because it can be an awkward thing, asking someone and being do they want me to ask this question? Can I ask this question? Yeah. But the more vulnerable you are, the less awkward it feels to ask that question, because you go, I've given you so much, hopefully you now feel comfortable, and so often they will.
But it's also, it doesn't have to be the most in-depth, serious conversation.
It could be anything.
Let's go for a surf with the young girl. Let's go for a surf and things just pop up.
100%.
Some of the best conversations that I have with crew is just doing something with someone. Let's go get a coffee. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a surf.
Definitely.
They're the best chats that you ever had. And usually, if there's something going on, they might be wanting to talk about it and they just need that little bit of a prod.
Yeah, they might just need to get outside the four walls.
100%.
They might need to get outside in the environment. That place can feel so claustrophobic when you've got shit outside going on. You might just need to get out,
Yeah. I feel like we should touch on footy just quickly before we wrap things up.
I play football. I play football too, whatever. Who cares?
It's funny, hey, we have these chats.
Go down the rabbit hole.
I was wondering where this chat was going to go, but it's just it's why I love these chats, because it's mental health and sport.
Yeah.
But very rarely we're talking about sport, which is I don't know, kind of but in terms I know you had a pretty tricky year last year, and I'm keen to talk on that. But how are you feeling? How's the body feeling? You're about to go into a camp. You got 2024 season coming up.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm really good, man. I'm loving where I'm at. I'm training the best. I'm probably putting together one of the best pre-seasons I've put together. We've got a new environment, new coach, new coaching staff across the board. It's a big change up. They've just brought a whole new energy. It's a really young coaching panel. And they're just awesome. So that in itself has brought me so much energy. But then my body's been really good, touch wood. Last year was just like, it was one to just put behind me. It's shit even looking at it because I know, like, obviously like you struggled like coming into the season, then into the season, and then what happened at the back end, and obviously I want to know what happened, but it looked hard. It looked tough. Can you run me through it? Yeah. So I mean, for people that don't know, AFLW, we are a very small portion of the year. So we start pre-season end of May. We start games in August, and we're done by end of November. Yeah. So we've got, 6 months there that we're not, we don't have a big team to train with. We're not playing games. It's a long part of the year. So it's a big build-up to pre-season. You're so excited to crack in, and that's what last year was. It's like, right, we've got 6 months off. We get into pre-season. We got to, I think, 4 weeks before round one it was. And we were doing match sim, and me and a teammate had an aerial contest going for the ball. She came down with her knee on top of my foot. Like, she's landed all weight on top of my foot. And is that a weird way to land? Yeah, a bit weird, but I think we kind of I went to spoil, she went to mark, and we kind of just got mixed up. Yeah. She's snapped her PCL, and I've ruptured the capsule around my midfoot joint, which is a really tricky injury in sport because it doesn't really happen in sport. It's a trauma injury, right? Like, it only happens, you wouldn't get it from pressing off. It's something that, something has hit it really hard. Yeah, exactly. So the medical staff and a lot of medical staff didn't really know what the return was. We originally, it happened 4 weeks before round one. We went, yep, we're going to get me up to play round one. Round one came along. We were 3 days out. They were like, we cortisoned it a week before round one. That did nothing. 3 days out, I'm trying to train on it. I'm physically cannot run. I'm in so much pain. I'm like, why am I in this much pain? I shouldn't be in this much pain. There is no way I'm playing in 3 days. Didn't play round one. We're like, righto, we're looking at about round 3, 4, righto, aim for that. And so every time I got to a place where we thought we were going to get there, I hadn't even touched the footy field yet. I'm in rehab. We go to try and run, and I'm nowhere. There's not a chance. So it was a tricky one where we had a date. I'd aim for that in rehab, and it would get pushed back another couple of weeks and another couple of weeks. So it's with a knee, a short term. No, not an ACL, because that is the toughest you've got to go through. That is a whole different kettle of fish. Sure. An MCL, where it's, you go, all right, I've got a grade 2, it's a 5-weeker, and I know if I do everything right and all going well, I'm going to be back in 5 weeks, and you go, I'm going to aim for this. And if you hit it, it's and more often than not, do everything right, you will. This one was so frustrating because I was going, this season, I'm missing a whole year of football. This season's flashing by, and there's nothing I can do about it. We don't know what to do. Foot injuries are so annoying. They just keep fucking up. But it's just the roller coaster, because you build, you're training so hard, you're putting all the blood, sweat, and tears into it, and then it's we get to that point. Actually, no, we're not ready. Let's come back. Literally, I know exactly 100%. What you mean. It's the worst, the worst feeling. And so that's all happening. I'm building up, and it got to. I ended up returning round 8. So by that stage, it's 14, 12 weeks on the 12 weeks on the sidelines. Whatever the math is. Whatever that is. I told you, no good at school. It was always going to be sport. You and me both. Yeah. But yeah, so that 12 weeks on the sidelines, finally get going and play one game against Sydney, and then round 9, the next game, played Geelong. Round 9, the next game in Sydney, hurt my knee, land on my knee on the floor, get pushed in the back, land on my knee on the floor, PCL, done for the season. So literally played, 2 weeks after. There was, I returned that 1 week, the following game. Yeah. That was knee, and then that was done. So it was all this work to get back, and I'm finally playing footy, and then my knee, and it was weirdly, there was this weird sense of relief when I got told that season done, because I was I don't have to try and push to get back. And I've been doing that for the last 12 weeks. it's out of my hands, and there was a weird relief with that.
Really?
I think it was like, it was so mentally fatiguing trying to get back, you know, that I was just like, and getting pushed back, that it's serious. It was such like, I was really struggling.
Yeah.
You know, I was really like, I'm a vice captain of Collingwood, and I was like, I felt I was letting myself down as a leader because I was really struggling to be there for others. It's when, you know, it's a prime example of when we talk about knowing when to give yourself energy. Like we got to round 2 and the club was incredible. They've always been incredible with me, but they were like, Roops, go home. You're in a moon boot for the next 2 weeks. There's nothing you can do. Go home. You know, like just things like that to support.
And imagine that's a huge energy recharge. You're going 100%. Back, seeing friends, seeing family, the 100%. Whole thing. And so did that allow, because what I'm really keen to, I guess, understand or know is like, how do you be there for the girls when you come back? Because obviously that's a huge part. Like you're a vice captain, you're a leader in the group. You want to be there for them, but you're not there on the field. How do you support them like that? It's,
you know what? It's something that like I probably look back on and I go, I really wish I did that better. It was a really tough year for our team.
Is that just you being humble though? Like if I pull another teammate in there, just be or you just being hard on yourself?
I think, you know what? It's probably me being hard on myself in the way of I need to give myself some grace because for, you know, this is my 9th year with Collingwood, year 8 last year. The 7 years before that, I've been an energy source. Like I've been the person that's up here all the time and give. And it's probably the first season where I've had to take every bit of energy I had and give it to myself.
Yeah.
And like I was able to be up in like one-on-one situations and go up, but like I wasn't able to do the team stuff. Like I really struggled with that. And like struggled being in the club. I remember being in the club and just wanting to cry. Like I'd come into the club and then like it was my unhappiest place at that time because I'd get in and I'd just be like, I know that I am inside like on the bike doing battle ropes and the girls are out there. I've got no idea what they're doing out on that field. I feel so disconnected from the group.
Rehab sucks.
Oh, dude.
Rehab's the worst.
Yeah, but like I'm also so aware there are so many people that are going through a whole lot. Like there are people, like we said, ACLs, who that's their 12 months. Like mine could have been 4 weeks. It ended up being 12, you know, like I'm very fortunate I had a comeback date that was close enough to keep me pushing, but it was really fucking hard at times. And like back to the leadership side, that's something in hindsight I look back on. I'm disappointed in myself in the way of that I probably needed to get outside of myself to pull myself out of it. Like we speak about getting energy from those moments. Like I probably needed to, you know, try that little bit harder to get outside myself to give myself energy. But it's really hard when you're in it to realise that that's what you need. Sometimes you think you just need to go interior and like, you know, just get through, get through. So yeah, it's a funny one. Like I look back and I go, oh fuck, that wasn't my best leadership. There's moments where they needed me, which I couldn't give. But I also give myself that grace of going. And I've also learned. I go, righto, I get a injury this year, touch wood, I know what I'd do differently.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The learning piece. Some of the hardest things you go through turn out to be incredible learning pieces 100%. And you see it firsthand.
100%.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Roops, I don't want to stop this conversation.
No, you got a flight to catch.
I know I'm going to be pushing it. Everyone's like, an hour and a half to the airport. It's like, no, it's not going to be an hour and a half.
You're going to get out there, Hoddle Street's going to be a shit show.
Before we wrap things up, I want to know what you're excited for. Like what? Like obviously we've talked about a few heavy things today, but like what's coming up? Like obviously like also congrats on buying the house. That's amazing.
Thanks. I'm excited to move into my house.
I'm very excited. But what's coming up? Like what are the things that we're looking forward to?
What am I looking for? So much, man. Like so much.
Give me a couple, right?
Like I think like just getting into the swing of things with work. Like my work is like the best job in the world. Like I get to watch footy and talk shit on it. And like just.
And you're so good at that.
Thank you. I'm a really good shit talker. Like just excited for that. Honestly, so excited to move into my house. Settlements in a few weeks. Getting there, my own space, first home. Just like, I don't know, to be in the groove. And like honestly, just to play footy. Like every time I'm out on track and training this preseason, I'm just beaming, man, because I'm like, oh, fuck, how good's this? How good's footy? Because, like, last year there was barely any of those moments. So it's like I'm honestly, I'm just excited for the season to be, like, really competitive, see what we can do and just see what I can do as well. Like, what's my limitation? How far can I push it?
You're coming into your prime, and it's also like, because what are we, 8 weeks away from the season?
Yeah, something like that. I think so.
Hey, I know.
You're
AFLW. I know the W space. I know the W space. I think by the time this episode goes out, you'll probably only be a couple of weeks away. Go to the Gold Coast. Go to the Gold Coast camp.
Well, that's one thing. Burley Pav on Saturday night. I'm pretty excited for.
I'll probably see you there this Saturday. This Saturday night, I was talking to Rowie. She's like, we got to camp. I was like, oh God, you girls got to run a muck there.
I know. I reckon we're. Are
you going to do much training? You got training before?
Yeah,
it's a training camp.
I think we wrap up Saturday arvo. So like I think the Pies boys are playing on the Goldie. We're going. And then all the staff and that are flying back, and there's probably like 20 of us girls who have stayed on. Oh. So we'll this won't be out of time. I was going to say see us at Burley Pav.
I don't think I'm going to come. I think that's too much.
Probably best.
Rubes, thank you so much for the conversation today. When I think of having a successful podcast, I always think like the takeaway tips, like the general say, and there's so many gems in there, like whether that being the energy, the body image piece, the confidence, coming back from injuries. Like I'm just so grateful. I'm not only grateful for this conversation, but I'm really grateful to get to know you and the girls over the last couple of years. You've got such an incredible team, but also like the next couple of years, like coming into the season, I'm pumped to watch you kill it, Rube. So thank you for coming on.
No, thanks for having me, Keegan. It's been unreal.